Is trauma stored in the body, and is fascia release the key to releasing it? This is a conversation and in some cases an argument that is occurring within the wellbeing industry, particularly on social media, because there are people who are selling the magic pill again. Come and get this fascia release and you will release all your trauma, and people asking the question, who can I go to for fascia release because I've got loads of trauma stored in my body? And it's an interesting conversation. There's definitely a shift in the conversation. There was for a while, I think off the back of a book called The Body Keeps Score by Bessel van der Kolk, which was published in 2014. Probably then written around 2011, 2012. So it's an old book in terms of knowledge and science, but if you listen to any of the talks that or interviews that Bessel van der Kolk has given in recent times, his thinking, his understanding has evolved. The sort of current mantra is the body doesn't keep the score, the brain keeps the score, the body is the scorecard. There is this need, and I've talked about this many times before, that we seem to have this need to have to understand everything and have to have a pathway for everything and have to have a solution for everything. There is a pill for every ill, except there isn't. And what's really interesting when I'm watching and listening is the number of people who are adamant that their thing is right, that their thing is the one and only way to do something. Theirs is the cure, the thing that's going to fix the problem. And that comes from that pill from every ill mentality, that there is only one way to do something, and there's not. There is a million ways to do things. What's really interesting about trauma is two people can go through the exact same experience, and one of them will come out traumatized from it and one of them won't. And that's down to so many different factors. There could be a gender factor, definitely a personal history factor, personal experience factor, a genetics factor, outlook on life factor. Some people just have a positive sunny side of the street. No, I was going to say deposition, that's not the right word. View of the world. And other people are negative Nancy's, they're doom and gloom. Trauma isn't what happens to you, it's how your body responds to what happens to you. And that there's many, many parts to that moving coin. Now, if trauma being released through somatics or fascia release was the simple path through, I would be healed. I would be whole and healthy all the time, because I have done a lot of this work. I have done a lot of trauma release through talk therapies, psychedelic therapies, movement therapies, massage therapy, Reiki, energy, sound, like you name it. I've almost pretty much tried it. I don't think it's as simple as that. So we need to be careful in, one, what we're saying as therapists, and two, what we're believing as people seeking the help. I do believe that trauma holds patterns of movement in your body. So if you have experienced something, you will hold yourself in a particular way. I had a client who, when she was in the car, always sat with her hand on the passenger seat, leaning away from the driver's door while she was driving, because she'd had a collision where somebody had come in nose first into the side of her vehicle. So she'd started holding herself. Her body had then started to manipulate and structure itself. I've spoken before on this podcast about how when I had my last flare, I was inflamed all down this left side. So I then started holding myself in a very similar pattern, actually shortening, and I'm much shorter in my right side, and the tissues are denser. So it's taking time, and I've been working on this now for about 2 years. intentional stretching, very conscious of my movement awareness, building strength on this side, trying to release, and it's taking its time to unravel. If you have had somebody shouting at you, shouting at you, shouting at you, you might have been hunched in, hunched in, hunched in. And if they always approached you from the same side of your body, that might be the side that you're holding that tension. If you just like to make yourself small, then you're going to be rounded in the shoulder. And as you start to release and open up, you can feel things. You can feel vulnerable, right? If you've been here in protection and then we're opening here, that can make you feel very vulnerable. That can bring emotions up. Does that mean that those past emotions were locked into the tissues? Question mark, question mark, question mark. We don't know. There's this thought that trauma isn't something that you can touch and feel. However, trauma creates a chemical reaction, a hormone response within your body. Those hormones are released. If you lock down, that's not going to process and move through. So as you open up, that may allow those chemicals to come back out. So then, because the chemicals are related to the feeling, you may then get that feeling back. The fascia holding on to the trauma, it doesn't have pockets or folders or envelopes that it can shove that stuff into. So it's a weird concept, right? That trauma is stuck in your body and it's just waiting to come out. But then you do the work. For some people, they'll go, oh my God, I feel so much better. Oh, I feel so much lighter. Thank you, you've released my trauma. And other people will be like, yeah, I feel good, but that trauma's still there. That trauma is still inside. And everybody is different. Everybody is different. Even the discussion around fascia, is fascia an organ, is fascia not an organ? I've heard very good arguments on both sides. The thought that fascia is an organ is because it has a functionality within the body. The argument against that is it doesn't have a boundary. It's not a solid structure like your liver or your kidneys or your lungs. So there's nuances there. Well, what is the definition of an organ? And then does it matter? I don't know. What I do know is touch is really, really important. It's important for us to experience because our nervous system and the sensory nerves and the fascia, as well as the central nervous system, respond to that touch. For you as the individual, how that touch is received is going to be unique to you. So if you do not feel safe in the experience, you might constrict. If you do feel safe in the experience, you might release and let go. So touch is really, really important. And many people don't even touch their own bodies. There'll be parts of your body that you may have never laid hands on, or you might have laid hands on and somebody at some point's gone, don't touch that, that's dirty. So then you've never touched yourself again. There'll be some parts of your body that feel very vulnerable, even for you to touch. Maybe you've had surgery, maybe there's a health issue going on, maybe there's a trauma associated with a part of your body. So that touch element is really, really important, and something that I'm always teaching and inviting my clients to do is to start doing lymphatic drainage on themselves. Part of that is about the touch. Get to know your own body. Like, how does this feel today? Is this the same as it was yesterday? And tomorrow, when you feel it, how will it feel tomorrow? Because if you don't touch with awareness, how do you even know what's right in your body and what's wrong? With the breast cancer, education for women is get to know your breasts, know when there's a change in your breasts, how they feel, how they look, any sensations that come up, really important, because when you know your body, you're going to feel very quickly when there's a change. And that's not just about searching for cancer, in the boobs. That's searching for anything, anywhere in your body. When you start to have changes and it's not, and this is something I have done, this is why it's coming to mind, it's not getting obsessed about every little thing, just being like, that feels different today, wonder what's going on there. Is it how I'm holding my posture? Have I been clamping down? Have I been doing something different in the last few days? So this touch part, super, super important for you to know your body, but also, are you okay with other people touching your body? That community, that connection can be a vital part of your healing journey. Movement is really important. All of these joints in our body were put there so that they could be moved, not so that we can do this, big movements. If your joint has big circular movement available to it, then your body should move that way. The spine, if you think about how the spine is stacked, all the vertebral discs, lots of movement, forward, flexion, extension, forward, back, rotation, side bends, all of this is meant to be able to happen. So if you have that restriction in your body, what is going on? Why is that restriction there? Have you had an injury and somebody's fused or screwed the joint back together and that's limited the movement? Or is it because you've just never taken it through that range of movement? How can you start to take it through the range of movement? Is it because you've had trauma and you've closed in and that's tightened and stiffened the body up? It's really important to look at our movement and, of course, our breath. Our breath. Are we taking diaphragmatic breaths? Again, this is something I talk about. It's really important for lymphatic drainage, the diaphragm breath, because the diaphragm is the muscle, sits rib to rib, breastbone to spine. It's a dome that sits right across the body, basically cuts the torso in half. There's organs below, organs above. So when you breathe in, if you're taking a diaphragmatic breath, the rib cage starts to expand out, that diaphragm pushes down as the lungs fill, squashes all the organs in the lower half of the body, squeezes them in, and then as you're breathing out, that creates space here, stretches all those organs, massages the top organs. That is your internal pump for your lymphatic system, because your lymphatic system doesn't have its own natural pump. Your pulse points, the muscle contractions, the heart, everything creating that closed loop circle for the blood to keep moving around. The lymph doesn't have that. The lymph is emptying out. So it needs muscle contraction through the movement. It needs that diaphragmatic breath to move things. If you're in a state of trauma, you've probably clamped down, you've probably started to shallow breathe. That has probably become a holding pattern, a natural pattern and rhythm for you. So when you then start to breathe, and some people get this, when they start to breathe, they can feel really emotional. Your lungs are part of your body's natural detoxification process. That exhaling breath is clearing those toxins out of your body. Those toxins, in air quotes, are the waste products, the byproducts. So you've had an emotional experience, a chemical reaction has happened, your body has been flooded with chemicals and hormones. Those chemicals and hormones need to go somewhere. If you clamp down and they've not been processed, then they're still floating about your body. When we exhale properly, when we move our bodies, when we are more free, then those chemicals can move through. Now, I don't know about you, but so many times you hear and see people getting emotionally upset. Oh, I'm so, and they apologise. Oh, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't be crying. I shouldn't be crying. And they're pushing it down and pushing it down. You've maybe been told right now is not the time to be expressing your emotions right now, or these emotions are not welcome here. Leave the room. Lots of different things can have happened throughout your life where you lose the natural ability that you have as a child to express that emotion. It's been untrained out of you, so you need to retrain yourself to be able to feel and express an emotion so it can pass through you, to reduce that risk of the tensing up, holding it in, which then is going to tense and tighten the body. And then, but this is where, it's when you start unpicking things and looking at the nuances and the details of how does the body actually work. Where are we getting these beliefs from that trauma is stored in the fascia and this is the missing link to everything? I think fascia is super interesting, and I do think that there is a missing link in the health journey, but it's not the next. It's like the vagus nerve is a part of the body, is one of 12 cranial nerves, the vagus nerve. The fascia is connective tissue that holds all the body together and does amazing things, but it's part of an ecosystem. Lymphatic drainage, part of the ecosystem. Your muscles part of the ecosystem. Your body is part of the ecosystem. The nervous system, part of the ecosystem, and all of this stuff lives within the fascia. So it's important, but it's not the most important thing. It's getting its moment of going to learn what I can learn about it, but not so that I can review the things that I've been taught, so that I can adapt, so I can grow, so we can learn. And then we can have more conversations. We can go, oh, this is interesting, that's interesting, because everything is connected. The environment outside has an influence on your, an impact on your body. How you hold your body has an impact on how you think and feel. We cannot, even though it's been separated, the mind is one thing, the body is another, they're not connected, they are completely interlinked and interwoven and have an influence on each other. If you're somebody who has a chronic illness and all you ever do is think about it, talk about it, talk can maybe hasn't needs to be adapted. How can experiences of life, then I'm going to feel better. I'm just realising if you're watching this on video how I'm holding myself right now. Apparently I do this quite a lot. I have my elbows at my waist and my palms out, and I have this movement quite a lot now, to the point that Chris, every time he starts to speak to me, he stands with his hands out to the side. He's like, "Hi, Jennifer." Um, so yeah, we are an ecosystem. There are lots of moving parts. It can be, it's a cultural and also a social media culture to look for the next on trend thing, that this is going to be the thing that fixes. If that was the case, I would be fixed. And I don't think there's anything to fix, because we're having an experience, we're exploring, something's not going quite right. Okay, how do we adjust and adapt to that? We're not broken, we do not need to be fixed. But this language around this is the new thing, this is the new thing, here's the pill for every ill, then we think that we're broken, that we think we're fixed, we think we need to look at this. When in fact it can feel overwhelming to look at it all. So what's the one thing that you feel drawn to? Let's explore that with interest and not have the overwhelming belief that this is going to be the one thing, because it's all connected. I would invite you to start with my free lymphatic drainage self-care routine, which you can download for free. The information about that is in the show notes. To get used to touching your own body, to get used to listening to your own body, to experiencing it, to feeling it, to see what is going on in your own physiology. You are the expert in your own body because you live in it 24 hours a day. Nobody else can tell you that they know your body better. So I would invite you to start with that. If you are in and around Glasgow and you would like to have a treatment with me, whether it's a massage treatment, an energy healing treatment, a movement therapy, ladies, you are welcome. Sorry, gents, I do not work with you. I do have a partner who works with men, so I'm happy to pass you on to him. Chris is excellent, but works in a very different way to me. Yeah, information is also in the show notes about how to book in. If you know somebody who is maybe feeling stuck with this sort of stuff, or you're hearing somebody getting sucked into the vortex of believing a very narrow narrative around this. I would love it if you would share with them. If you've got any comments or questions, please do make sure you pop them in. Like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is you do on whichever platform. If you're on, I think, Spotify and Apple, like, you leave reviews, really helpful to help the podcast grow. Yeah, if you've got any questions, reach out. Let's have a chat. Let's have this as an ongoing conversation. Let's see where this all takes us. And it's important to keep the conversation open and let ego go, because you don't have to be right all the time. And I'm telling that to myself too. I am Jim Wilson, Healer Neville. Thank you so much for listening today, and I will see you on the next episodes.